Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be with a White House Correspondent, Robert Feuereisen. So thank you, Robert, for joining me, especially in light of International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is January 27th. So what would you like to share with our viewers concerning International Holocaust Remembrance Day?
Well, it's a very important occasion, and the Torah itself, when God gave us the law from Mount Sinai, there is a lot of things in there that tells us the importance of remembrance. And one of the things that it tells us is to remember the Sabbath day. So you see, remembrance and to remember is very important for the Jewish faith and for God, and that we should remember everything that goes on into this world, because everything that happens in this world is ordained by God himself. And we have to learn from it, and we have to study it, and we have to observe everything that goes on. And the unfortunate catastrophe that happened about 70 years ago with the Holocaust was certainly a defining moment of how people act and how people who are not close to God, or not godly people, how they can just throw away their own humanity and their own feelings about humanity and destroy the world. And that's what happened 70 years ago. But with the grace of God, we, the Jewish people, and all those who are not Jewish, stood up and fought back and remembered what they should know, that we are eternal people. We are people of God. We were created by God, and therefore we have not only a responsibility to get up and to build from the ashes, but to not only promote liveliness, promote livelihood, and promote the future, that we have a future, because God wants us to have a future. And it's all part of his itinerary. Now, as far as the Holocaust Memorial, that's something that is very sacred to each and every one of us. And it should be also sacred to those who are not of the Jewish faith, because it is an important part of history. When something happens to this world, whether it's for good or for bad, we have to understand there is a message there directly from heaven. And if we ignore that message, then we ignore ourselves in our future. So it is very important, very tantamount to our future, that we do remember the Holocaust. And we do remember, and we should remember, not only the Holocaust, but all the tragedies. And not only the tragedies, but the good things, the trials and tribulations that have gone since mankind was created. And that's something that we always have to remember. And that is something that is it's a godly thing to remember, not to forget. So every person, whether he's a Jew or Gentile, should remember the Holocaust and should study it and should teach it to the younger generation and to all future generations. And without that, we will be lost. We will not have a history, and we will not have a future, because the past is our future. The past is our present. And it's what we do with it, that's what counts, and that's what makes us, and that's what builds us.
Robert, what would be your concern about the way the administration is handling the remembrance of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day? What do you believe that this current administration is or needs to do more to honor the Jewish people in light of this International Holocaust Remembrance Day?
Well, first they should promote it, publicize it, speak about it, have the president speak about it. And there are many things that this administration can do and should do, because we, the Jewish people of the United States, are very much a part of helping build the United States of America. In wisdom, in money, in the whole architecture of the United States was built by many Jewish people. and also many Jewish immigrants who survived the Holocaust. So this administration and every administration owes it to us, to the Jewish people, to not only remember, but to promote it and to teach the younger generation, again, in all the schools, public schools, parochial schools, all schools should learn about it and not forget. Because if we forget the history, then we'll sometimes, God forbid, relive it, and we don't want to do that. And we see a lost generation here in America. The public school system, there are a lot of kids who have absolutely no idea about the past. You ask them who was the first president of the United States, and unfortunately, there are students throughout the public school system who have absolutely no idea. And that is part of forgetting history. And that's a tragedy.
Yes, it is very disturbing about what has been happening about this. For a lot of evangelicals in our audience, and I've talked with a lot of Orthodox Jews, their concern has been regarding anti-Semitism, has been rooted in the belief about Israel's right to the land. I've heard a lot of talk from different administrations about a Palestinian state. Any concerns that you have, or for the Jewish people, about dividing up Israel for a Palestinian state?
Well, it's a very difficult subject. And then again, it's not such a difficult subject. And the reason for that is because, you see, we believe when God gave us the Torah at Mount Sinai, it specifically states that he created the world, God created the world, and the entire world belongs to him. He owns all the real estate. And he generously gave the Jewish people, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel, for the Jewish people, solely for the Jewish people to serve him. And every inch of the land of Israel belongs today to the Jewish nation. And no one has the right to go and take it away. It cannot be divided because it will never succeed. Administration after administration has tried to come up with some kind of a solution, but God will not allow it. There's talk about dividing the Kotel. It will not happen. And if it does, it won't last too long. The only way there can be peace in the Middle East is if the Palestinians and all the other Arab nations fully understand that Israel belongs to the Jewish people, given directly by God himself. And anyone who tries to interfere with that will, in the end, see the truth and will definitely fail their mission in trying to take over Israel and try to eliminate the Jewish state. It's not going to happen. It'll never work. And my advice, and the advice of many people, many Jewish people throughout the history, is just leave Israel alone. We can handle it. We have God on our side, and he won't let anything happen to us and to our nation.
Well, I'm thinking in context of the prophet Joel, or Joel chapter 3, verse 2, that says, God enters into judgment in the valley of Jehoshaphat, the nations that divide up his land. And as you mentioned, this is the right of the Jewish people to their land, that is a covenant that God has with Abraham. And this is a really serious issue I've seen in Joel 3:2. So any comment on Joel 3:2 and about God's warning about dividing it?
Well, as I just stated before, it's not going to happen. It would not succeed. And anyone who attempts to will fail. Okay.
Any final comments you'd like to make about your experience at the White House? As far as getting into the White House, there's been a lot of concern too about testing as an entrance to get into the White House. Any final comments you might want to make about your experience regarding entrance into the White House?
Well, let me go back at the time to the Clinton administration where I first started as a journalist. And I've had very, very good experiences throughout the different administrations. I have spoken not too long ago to the present press secretary, Jen Psaki, and I told her that she was the 21st press secretary that I have been associated with. And she was very pleased. And I had a very nice meeting with her, and have always had a very good rapport with the members of the press corps and of the administration, the lower press office, and the upper press office, and I was always welcome by every press secretary. And I like to continue that rapport. And I must admit, I was taken by surprise on January 21st, the day after President Biden's inauguration, when I came to the White House, and I saw a sign about having these tests daily. In the beginning, as long as we didn't have to pay for it, so they want us to take a test, we'll take the test. But once they started making us pay for it, and it came out to about $160 or $170 a day, it kind of set a lot of people back. Not everyone can afford this. This is, if you come to the White House today, at least 4 times a week, we're talking out of your pocket over $500. So I had spoken to members of the press about this, and I know the press corps doesn't have to pay for it. And I had spoken to even Jen, and I've spoken to other members of the upper echelons in the press office, and trying them to waive it for all members of the press, which I think is fair. The United States budget is quite large. We're talking in the trillions. So what does the press do in the White House? The press is the public spokesman for the United States of America and the world. It helps the administration. It tells what the administration is doing, what they want to do. So the press is very important. The freedom of the press is extremely important to the republic. And so we play a major role, whether we are a major network or we're just a journalist of a particular news outlet. But we play a major role in the freedom of America, and of getting out the word, the right word, the proper word, and the right message to the American people and people throughout the entire world. So I think they should reconsider this entire thing. And I don't know why it's necessary to have this test every single day. And it is an inconvenience for many people, many journalists, and it's something that should be reconsidered. And of course, again, in the beginning, the White House did pay for all the journalists, and I think they should continue to do so as a respect for journalism throughout. And if they don't do this, it shows that they just don't really understand the role of the press. The past administrations, I don't think, would have done this. The last administration, for sure, I know, wouldn't do this. I have had a very good association with members of the Trump administration, and I was given a lot of access. And also during the past administrations, I've had a lot of access. And so I don't think they would have ever gone with that route. So I was taken by surprise, just as everybody else in those who are not maybe a part of the press corps. Perhaps they were given advance notice about this, but many people in the press were very shocked to see that this requirement, and then the fact that afterwards that we had to pay for it. So I think the White House should reconsider it. And I think this administration can be very successful, and but there are certain things that they must come to realization that certain things just can't work. And freedom of the press is something that is tantamount to the freedom of the Republic of the United States. If we don't want to lose our freedom, then we need to be able to speak up, to speak out, and tell things the way they are, the way we feel, the way the American people feel. And if I don't know what the intentions is of the White House press right now, to go into their minds, I don't want to do that, but their actions tell a story. What are they trying to do? So we need to talk about that, and we need to make them understand we are a part of their administration because we tell their story. And their story is an important story because they are now in control of the United States with President Biden at the helm.
Mm-hmm. You know, along with this issue about testing, I've noticed a different standard for those that are unvaccinated. They've had to be tested every day going into the White House, but the vaccinated people didn't have to be tested. Any comments finally on that?
Well, that's all part of the idea of getting people vaccinated. And there are, as you can see, we can all see that there's an enormous amount of people throughout the country who, not only the country, in the world, who just do not yet feel comfortable with the vaccine. It may be a top vaccine, may be excellent, and but it has not yet been proven. Vaccines years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, you had vaccines for polio, you had vaccines for smallpox, you had vaccines, all kinds of vaccines, which were proven. And nobody gave it a second thought, except in certain religious people who were against anything that has to do with doctors or etc. But the mainstream of the world went along with these vaccines. And it is very strange that today that a lot of the medications which are very helpful for the virus that is going around now just cannot be found, and everyone has no choice but to either take the vaccine or don't take the vaccine. And it is obvious that there's a lot of money out there that people are profiting from people's loss. And who's lost over here? People who just don't want to take a chance on this vaccine until it has been tested at least for another couple of years, because we don't know down the road what it's going to do to someone who did take the vaccine 2 or 3 years down the road. We don't know that, at least I don't. And to force people and to make them and to a point where you're taking away their civil rights is endangering the civil rights, not only of all of America, but the civil rights of, it's going to take away the civil liberties of the United States of America, because it's going to make us a less free nation. And that is a very dangerous blow for the country if, God forbid, that happens. And to a certain degree, it is happening in certain states where they're forcing people to take this vaccine against their will. And this has never been. The time of when you had polio, when you had other diseases, nobody was forced. Nobody was made. No one's job was taken away. So this is serious business, what's going on. And the United States should, this administration or any administration should understand that people here in the United States have a right of choice when it comes to their own lives. And this has been kind of, to a certain degree, taken away. If somebody loses their job or forced out of a job because they are against, they don't trust the vaccine, or they don't want to take a chance with their lives, well, that's a major problem and a major blow for democracy.
I was just going to final comment after what you shared about this. I wanted to remind people, and you heard about the Supreme Court decision recently overturning President Biden's vaccine mandate, or at least the OSHA mandate for workers, but left in place the vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. So it is a very challenging time, isn't it, Robert, what we're going through over this vaccine issue?
Well, I think the Supreme Court was right in allowing people to make their own choice. However, they didn't go far enough. They allowed to stand those of federal workers, which I think is a grave mistake.
Well, of course, we're going to see some more development on this as this unravels a lot of challenging issues. And Robert, I sure thank you for sharing your views, especially the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, why it is so important to bless Israel. And I do want to encourage people to pray for Israel and to bless Israel.
Well, right. I appreciate those thoughts. And we must understand that the whole world should understand that the entire world really evolves on how we treat Israel.
Mm-hmm. I guess finally could finish with Genesis 12:3 that says that there is a blessings for those that bless, referring to Israel. And when God is talking about his covenant with Abraham and his seed, and then there are curses for those that curse Israel. And I sure have seen, and I'm sure you have seen as well, many blessings for nations that bless Israel.
Yeah, that's true. All the nations who have promoted Israel, they're very successful. And nations who have been very much against Israel, and even throughout the years, going back even back into the time of the all different types of, I guess you go back into the time of in 1492 when a lot of Jews were sent out of Spain. So you see all these countries who mistreated the Jewish people today, they're not so popular today. Their countries are, I guess you can call them maybe third-rate countries, but they're not as powerful, and they lost their prestige throughout the ages, throughout the years. And today they don't have that prestige because they went against the Israeli people, God's chosen people.
It's a blessing to talk with you, Robert. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on these very important issues.
Thank you, and I hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you soon as well. And for those that don't have much information about International Holocaust Remembrance Day, it's easy to find that through Google, just to search for International Holocaust Remembrance Day and to bless Israel. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you.